This is the weekly update from the Distancify studio. What's going on, guys?
We are launching on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
Fun.
You're launching your first project, Oscar.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Hell. 4 words. 4 letters, I mean.
Yeah. But for real, though, like, it is kind of your maiden flight.
It's a bit exciting. I don't know all the parts of it yet, but for sure, there's going to be some troubles maybe, some hot fixes that need to go out fast.
Yeah, that's usually the case, especially when you're like, think there won't be any.
Yeah, so that's why I come with a mindset that there will be problems, and then I can just be happily surprised.
Yeah, or unhappily have your assumptions confirmed.
Unhappily correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm not too worried. It's since it's been sort of running in the production environment, even though it's like no external traffic, there shouldn't be any major surprises. But who knows?
I think it's going to be all right.
Yeah, the steps also involved in actually launching is not that many.
It's like change this configuration and we're done.
Yeah, and reconfigure the DNS, and that's about it.
Cool.
I've been through worse releases, and you will.
And
you will see worse
no.
releases. Yeah, but it's good when you can split down the releases into smaller bits. I mean,
I see releases a little bit like putting a boat into water. I don't have a boat, but this is how I see it in my head. It's like a big release, a big boat, big splashes, big ripples. And then a smaller boat, less ripples. So, and then you just expect the ripples.
Yeah.
But I think there's one aspect of releasing software which interact with humans that you often forget, and that's the human impact of those changes, because the systems usually comes with some sort of process change, and it takes a while. Like, we can deploy something in 1 minute, you know. We can do a lot of changes, you know, during a deploy. But getting the people who are working with the system to change their routines and their mindset, and, you know, getting used to trust the system, that takes a much longer time. And that is something that is often kind of overlooked in some cases, where you think like, okay, we're gonna deploy this. There's gonna be some bugs, but then like 2 days later, everything's gonna be cool. Except that it probably takes, you know, it could take up to a year for the organization to be sort of internalizing the new system and the new processes. And that's sometimes we run into that when we keep developing after a big deploy or after like a big project launch or whatever. And we're like, okay, now let's build all the other features that we thought about. And it's like, we can do it, but the organization can't receive it. It's like trying to like push the changes onto someone who doesn't have time to actually receive it. We had this problem back in the Stay Hard days, where we built so many new features that nobody actually used.
Yeah, I have a story about that. It was one Black Friday. One Black Friday.
Oh
no, yeah, but and then we
should put on some background music, you know, like suspenseful music.
Yeah,
in post. Yeah.
Here it comes.
Okay, that's the story.
Yeah, but
it was one Black Friday.
It was raining, I believe. No, but anyway, I was the
November,
person who was on call for that time, and we had performance issues, which is not good, especially when it like makes the website go down during Black Friday.
Right.
And I went through like all the recent commits. Couldn't find anything that I have done that could have caused this. And I started doing tracing on the machine, or profiling, I mean, using the .NET profile tool. I don't remember the name right now, but I traced it back to a feature that we developed like a year before that they didn't really use before that. And then it was just a cache issue. So I built a cache and then I deployed that on Black Friday and the site started working again. So it was not a big deal, but it was really hard to find that problem because, as you said, they never got to the point where they started using the tools until then. And then it was like,
so even if the feature was technically correct, it did what it's supposed to do. In this case, it was a performance issue.
Yeah, it was related to some tags, and they were calculated all the time when the result could just be cached.
Okay.
So that's what I did. I just went in and cached them.
Yeah, but that actually brings up another issue. Sudden changes in behavior that you're not aware about can also come up. Like when you have an incident, it's really important to quickly get a sort of situational awareness where, okay, what did just happen? Because it might not be obvious from the logs. Like sometimes you have a problem and it's like, yeah, we have 40,000 errors in the log and they all point to the same problem, right?
Yep.
Pretty easy to find. But sometimes it's just the system, apparently you started behaving weird. And then if you have a system with 30 plus users that are just in doing stuff you have never really seen or talked to or anything, and one of those agents or actors started doing something that you didn't expect, that can also bring very interesting problems. So it's important that you see not just the errors, but also the behavior, especially like on a website, if you have 100,000 visitors.
In this case, I could also add that the traffic was coming from an SMS sent out to a huge list of recipients. And also the landing page used about 500 of these uncached tags. So,
nice.
It was like a real punch in the face.
I can relate to that with having a dormant feature and then suddenly it starts being used and then all the problems arise way later.
Yeah.
Because when I started here, some of my first assignments were to make blocks for Vinga, which they recently started testing.
Yeah.
They've only seen the demos and seen like the mock-ups which they made for them, but never seen them in action. And now when they see them in action, then comes the real feedback. Then they're like, I'm not happy with this. I don't want it to be like this. And I'm like, well, that was 6 months ago, but okay.
But I mean, it takes time sometimes. If you have an idea and you haven't based your idea around some actual content, just fake content that you make up, then it takes a while to get to that point where you actually can use the new components that you have built. That's why it's much better to build
even if you do exploratory testing, even if the customer themselves do exploratory testing before release, it takes a special kind of mind to test things properly. Because what you do is like you just go in, add some imaginary content, and you're like, okay, it looks kind of good, I guess. And then you start adding actual content, and then you starts to break it down. So it's a tricky problem to address with the process alone. It's like, we need more testing, but who's going to do that testing? Like, who's going to know what need we will have in the future? It's really hard. And one thing which you can do is actually not build stuff until you need them. Sounds kind of obvious, but it actually isn't. Like, if you're reliable in your estimates, you don't need to build stuff 3 months in advance. It's only if you're like, we don't think we're going to make this when we say we're going to make this, so we're building it 6 months in advance just in case, and then you just have created a new problem for yourself.
But doesn't that come with an issue when everything has the same date? I want everything this day.
Obviously, yeah.
I can't make everything the day before, so you have to queue it up.
Yeah. If you're doing a big launch, then you will run into that problem.
Right.
But it's you can do a lot with just being a little tactical in about how you go about creating things, and you want to make sure you build the features in the right order. And if you can, try to split it into smaller pieces, smaller deployments.
Even in a big project, you still need to fill the system with data, and that needs to be done in a certain order. So you probably build those features first, and then they come with the data. So you actually do implement some features, and then you add the data for those features, and then you do some. So you
Right.
still do that, even though the actual deploy is bigger. But you don't like our job. We put everything out at the same time, but the content creators, they have to do their job ahead of time, and that's when the features should be built.
This all boils down to the lean methodology or way of thinking. If you think about it, it's like, and the thing with lean is people look at it and say, yeah, that's all obvious. And then they go and do the complete opposite.
Right.
Like there's so much truth into, avoiding a batching, for example. Like don't do everything in large batches, and don't optimize for resource, what do you call it? Like, don't optimize for utilization of your resources, but rather focus on delivering value, right? Instead of, the problem with big batches when you're doing development at the same time is that if you are doing something wrong, you're doing something wrong a lot of times before realizing that it is wrong. It's like the classic like car manufacturing example is you're drilling a hole for a screw, and then you're doing that for 500,000 cars, and then you realize that, oh shit, we should have made the hole 1 centimeter to the right. So now we have to, take the 500,000 cars back and re-drill them. And this is kind of what Toyota figured out. It's like, okay, we drill one hole and then we put the screw in and see if it fits. And if it doesn't, we pause the whole pipeline and make sure we do the hole in the right place. That we're building one car at a time-ish that actually works, rather than building, 50 cars in parallel where they all going to share the same faults.
Right.
And eventually you're going to be so even if you do, in theory, you do lose time when you do that because you're not optimizing. But in the end, since you will end up with having no faults, you will actually be faster, even though each individual step is slower. And that's the whole idea.
And also,
behind.
you might not end up where you thought you were going to begin with.
True. You might end up with a different car.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah. Yeah, but that's there's a lot of wisdom in that, and it goes against all your intuition. So you'd think that by now everybody understands these concepts, but I don't think all too many people do. And especially, it's like, even if you do understand the principle, being able to uphold that principle in a stressful situation is not something that you have to be really convinced. Like, we have to release this tomorrow. Being able to uphold these principles when you can start to do shortcuts and you can see that, okay, maybe we can do it faster if we're just batching or whatever. And then you fail because you start doing mistakes instead. That's, a lot of business leaders do not understand those principles well enough that they can actually uphold them in a stressful situation.
Yeah, I just can't stop thinking about testing right now because it's the same thing. It's like, oh, but I just changed this and it will be so quick to just manually test this. And then I change it and then it's like, I should have written a test for this. And now I need to tweak it a bit. Okay, but it's so fast to just test it manually. And then it's like, oh, so much time could have been saved if I just wrote the unit tests for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you think it's counterintuitive. Like you think
it's the same mistake, mentally you're making. It's not the same concept where like batching versus non-batching.
No, it's just the
but
thing.
It's the same human sort of.
Yeah, you think that. Yeah, but this will be faster.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you do that, and then like after the third time or fourth time or 20th time that you manually test this thing, you are like, I was so stupid, but now I'm pot committed. So now I will not write this test because I just need to test it one more time manually.
Yeah, there's only one more time.
Yeah,
like,
one more time. Only one more time.
Get it.
It's like when you find yourself saying that, it's probably time
to go to bed.
Yeah, or just write that test.
I've ruined so many nights just thinking, just one. I'm almost there. Now I've always pinpointed this problem.
Yeah.
I'm just going to fix it now. I'm just going to do it one more cycle.
Minutes.
Yeah, 5 more minutes. And then it's like, oops, 4 hours later.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, I should get up in 2 hours. I should probably just don't not go to sleep.
Yeah, if I go to sleep now,
Yeah.
I will be a fucking mess tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm just not gonna go.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that happens. I've actually become better at that, to think to myself that if I go to bed now, I can go up early, and then I will get, either I take 2 hours now, or I go up 2 hours earlier tomorrow, and those 2 hours that I spend in the morning, I will be, more rested and fresh. So maybe 2 hours now is only cost me 30 minutes tomorrow, because I will, and then what usually happens is I go to bed and I sleep on it, and then I wake up with the solution. I like those 2 hours that I could have wasted last night turns into 5 minutes this morning because I woke up with the solution.
Yeah, even if you don't go up 2 hours early.
Exactly.
It's like you can
don't even
sleep.
have to do it.
Yeah, you get
Just-
4 hours more sleep.
Yeah, that's such a life hack.
Go to bed.
Yeah. But it's when you're in the zone, it's, you lose track of time. So you kind of like have to have egg timer or something that wakes you up and say, time to go to bed.
Yeah.
What do you say, Vlad?
Yeah,
Do you have this problem?
not really.
Oh,
I
yeah.
read my test.
I
do
forgot.
my-
I forgot, Vlad. You never create bugs.
No, I do create bugs.
Okay.
Just that.
You should be closer to your microphone if you want to hear
Yeah,
you.
maybe.
Okay. So you do create bugs.
Yeah, of course.
What do you do about them?
Yeah, I find them. Hopefully before anyone else finds them. That's the secret.
Okay. So you're actually arguing to not go to bed and to stay up all night and fix the bugs.
I would say that rather I'm pro sleeping and waking up a little early to find them before anyone else finds them before they wake up and find
Yeah,
them.
okay. Right. Yeah. I'm just trying to get a conflict going here, but
Yeah,
apparently
but
you
if
all
you
just
want,
agree.
if you want a conflict, you can just ask Oscar. Oscar, do you think you should go to bed?
No.
No.
No, I'm kidding.
Yes. Finally,
Oscar.
someone who disagrees.
But I feel like I have this tendency of going to work early so I can fix stuff that I was supposed to do yesterday before anybody finds out that I didn't do them yesterday.
Ah, okay. How does that work for
It
you?
actually works.
Okay.
It feels like I'm adding to yesterday
Yeah.
if it's before the morning meeting for some reason.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Everything that happens up until the stand-up
Exactly.
happened yesterday.
Exactly.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah,
that's
but
the
I can
case.
relate to that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it's like I have this thing, but I can do that in the morning before the meeting, and then it will be done at the stand up.
Exactly.
And then it's like, yeah, the plan is intact. So what did you do this morning? Yeah, none. None
I
of your
just came
business.
in. I just came in
Yeah.
5 minutes
You
ago.
mean Friday night.
Yeah.
But if you don't sleep, then it's still Friday.
That's true, though. Yeah, I remember that back in the last year when we crunched, wanted to release Revolution Race. I figured that if I don't sleep, I can make this day be at least 48 hours, no problem. I think I maxed out at 36.
That's the
36
trick.
was the longest day.
The trick to add hours
But-
to a 24-hour day.
Yeah,
Don't sleep.
it was like it's still Tuesday, right? No, it's Thursday. Oh wait. So yeah, but that doesn't work. You can do that for a few days, but yeah, it's not a long-term solution to productivity.
Like, I'll just sleep next year.
Yeah, but that's one strategy you can use when in a pinch.
I feel like there will be some sort of pinch on Wednesday for the release.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't believe
There's
it.
always something.
No.
Always something.
This release is different from the simple fact that most of the system is already working. Like I remember when we deployed RevRace, we had to deploy everything at once. The order management system, the PLP, the product page, everything basically. But here, the order management system is already working. Everything is tested against production data. With RevRace, we had to basically get all of it not too long before deploy. And I think it's going to go.
Yeah, I think overall it's going to be a fairly smooth ride compared to what it could be. But there is always like, oh, we didn't think about this product that there's always those like, oh, what happens in this particular case?
It's like the case recently where I realized, they will have products that are variants of the same base product, but they belong to different categories.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the kind of gotchas that could come up during a launch like this.
Yeah.
And it depends on on the project and the dignity of the project. Like if we were launching Perseverance, towards Mars, we would probably go about having a little bit of a different quality assurance process. But for this project, the risk is fairly low, and the whatever problem there is will probably be fixed within 5 to 10 minutes of discovery. So you kind of lay the plan based on those circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like when you get a carpenter, I think. Like you can pay fixed price, but you will pay a premium, or you can pay by the hour. And if you're launching a rocket, you want a fixed price. You want to take all the time that you need to make sure that rocket won't blow up, because it's bad. But otherwise, you can take a little bit less time and save some of the money, but it's time in this.
Shave off some testing.
Yeah, but but I mean, you don't need to make sure as much, because it's much cheaper to fix it afterwards, because you, instead of trying to predict any way that this can go wrong, you just make sure that we do not get stuck somewhere. We don't make something that we cannot get out from, some big problem.
Yeah, you can always send a patch.
Yeah, but I mean,
down.
It depends. Like if it's a store front end bug, you can fix those. Maybe you don't want to send all the order data to dev null, because that's that's a bad. You can't get that back. Should you just call every customer and ask them to make the order again? It doesn't work.
Yeah, but it's this is also an interesting topic, because it's easy to produce that guarantee, or a process that can basically guarantee success, but it's a cost benefit analysis all the time. And I think we have a process where we're okay, we're not cutting certain aspects of the process. There should be clear specifications, every behavior should be tested, but you could always do more exploratory testing. You can build up test environments that exactly matches the production environment. You can do a lot of things, but then in different projects, you have different possibilities, because, okay, let's say we want to make sure that we don't run into any environment-related issues. Okay, then we need a staging environment with, 5+ servers that just sits there and heat up a server rack most of the time. And are you willing to pay for that? Or would you rather ignore that possibility and go into production with the risk of there being some sort of incompatibility, which you can probably fix in 5 minutes?
Yeah, and we will also think about that when we develop. So we will not build for one single server deployment just because we don't have a test environment.
I have a story around this concept of taking in the context when you do, because a lot of people just do risk, or sort of they only do half of the work in a sort of cost benefit analysis situation, or risk analysis. And I worked with a client once, and they were so concerned of the fact that they didn't have, for this particular configuration that they were going to send in to production, they didn't have a staging environment where they could easily test it out. And they were so concerned of this. It was a major deal breaker to them until they realized that the actual cost of making a mistake is 5 seconds of fixing it. So in their minds, they were okay, what if we launch this new configuration and the website goes down? And then in their minds, anytime they did that in the past in their current system, that would be a 8-hour outage. So there was a lot of discussion until I realized that is their perspective. And I told them, it's if you do send in a broken configuration and you just revert to the old one, it will be semi-broken for 5 seconds. And then they were oh, in that case, it doesn't matter.
Right.
We could just test it because it was not life-critical system. Now, I wouldn't do that with, let's say, a ventilator for someone in an ICU. Wouldn't just randomly press some buttons and see what happens, and then, oh, shit, it stopped working. That's not a good strategy. But this was an e-commerce website, and 5 seconds of, let's say, the search doesn't working properly wasn't that big of a deal. So in that case, you didn't need a staging environment. But in some cultures, these things become very dogmatic, and you stop to think about, why are we doing these things? So you always have to question the process, and does it make sense in every context? And I think we sort of like jokingly usually refer to that as enterprise software. They tend to be very dogmatic in their approach, and usually like for good reasons. There's been a legitimate case for when this was needed, but the reason was somewhere forgotten, and now you're just doing it because, it says so in the process description, or, it's just a policy. This is how we do it. Nobody knows why. And that is something to keep in mind, to kind of reevaluate as well. So for this launch, we've taken a sort of a pretty loose, there's a very loose process around it, I'd say, because it fits for this project. Other projects would require a different approach. So, it's very up to situation.
Well, that's the fun part of it, actually, of this entire e-commerce business. It seems like every solution is kind of unique in its own sense. They don't get bored by just, the same process all over again. Of course, you couldn't do that, but...
I talked to a guy once. I won't dox anyone, but I talked to a guy once who's been working in e-commerce for many years, going back to like mail ordering systems. And he was so tired of creating another checkout. So he was like, I only want to work with back-end integrations now. I never want to work with front-end again, because front-end for him, which just meant redesigning the checkout once again. And he hated that. Because it was like...
at this company.
No, it was not at this company. But it was like so interesting. He was spending 10 years rebuilding checkout. And it was like, it doesn't make any difference. Like every year, every 2 years, there's some new UX designer, customer experience person who wants to redesign the checkout, and it never actually makes any difference. And that's, he was really tired of it. And, but I think that's kind of what sort of the prejudice is against e-commerce. And I think a lot of developers are in that situation where they like, all they're doing all day is just launching another Shopify, creating another template or whatever. But if you dig a little bit deeper, and like what we do is so much more than that. And it has parts of a lot of different pieces. Like there's the front end code. And if you like front end and, visual interaction, you can go really deep into that. But if you like, if you're into data science or algorithms and statistical analysis and AI and those kind of things, there's that whole leg. Like you could do so much in that area. If you're into logistics and processes or order management or that part, you have that leg as well. Like there's a lot of different areas where you can work. And, mobile applications, web browser, optimizing the front end is also something that's become a thing. Recently, it's like the front end has a back end. There's an application running in the browser, while it used to be some server just sending off static code to a browser, and now there's a whole application there as well with multiple layers, and there's a lot of stuff. So as a developer, I think e-commerce is a really interesting business to be in, or industry to be in, because it has all of these problems combined. And when you combine all of those, you create a lot of value, which is obviously great if you're trying to run a business, because then you can make money.
Yeah, you can stay the same way, do MVC forever, or you can break the loop and try out new things.
Yeah, yeah.
Become yourself better.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of developers coming out, they think you're like, okay, what am I gonna do? There's a lot of buzz around, you both have games as in traditional computer games, console games. A lot of people probably think that's a really cool area to be in, and it probably is. And then you have all the gambling industry where there's a lot of money going around, and you have fintech or financial tech, which are doing a lot of cool things. But I think e-commerce the interesting part with e-commerce is that it has aspects of all of these other industries all combined into one. But you can make it into like, it's all about creating another WordPress template, or you can build something different. And that's what we're trying to do is like, what can we build that nobody has built before? And then we'll try to pursue that. Like how can
it's
we?
like you build your own stack. You depend. Yeah. If you take, like, I'm not too familiar with all these other platforms, so I'm just going to say that when you use Shopify, you just put a face on it, like
Pretty much.
and then that's where you put yourself. So you get that top layer. That's all you get to play with. And then maybe some plugins using some JavaScript libraries, like you put widgets on from other services. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Or you can pick a bigger piece of the stack and take responsibility for it. And then you get more playroom.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, like games, while being sort of, that's probably the one industry where you can see the least overlap. If you look at fintech, it's like, yeah, we're pushing a lot of transactions. We're pushing a lot of financially, the systems we build, they have a lot in common in their nature of how they operate as other sort of financial systems, because it's a lot about transactions and not like, dropping the stuff. Like you have to have a really high reliability, and you have high volume of traffic. And then you have the whole like AI is getting, like the e-commerce is, because the problem is if you have an e-commerce and you have a lot of traffic, there's no way that you can optimize for your customers being like, if you have 30 people or 50 people working in the marketing department, they can only do so much. They only have so many hours. And then you have 100,000 or a few 100,000 customers, you have to start simplifying that problem. Or you can use AI or various statistical analysis to start to optimize and work with these systems a lot smarter. So, because what you want to do if you're a marketer or working in sales in general, you want to work with the strategy and the tactics, but you don't want to work with, doing boring tasks of copying values back and forth in Excel all day. Like that's what the computer can do for you. And
because if you do that manually, you're very limited to how much you can do. I mean, because if you sit and do that, you don't do anything else. You're busy.
Yeah. You want to be
puppet master.
Yeah, exactly. But you want it to work at a sort of high level where you can see the systems interacting with the customers, but not necessarily be the person doing the work, because the computer can do the work for you. But yeah, I think it's an underestimated industry in terms of what developers think. And I think there's a lot of people in e-commerce as well who are only doing what you said, Limblom. It's like they're only creating another template for a pre-made system, and they don't really know how the integration works or how the transactions are flowing or any of the interesting bits, or even hosting.
Yeah, I mean, hosting and content delivery.
Yeah.
Like everything in between there.
Yeah. Like we work with all kinds of different database technologies. We work with
edge computing. We do have it.
I mean, we put as much as we can on the client, and when we can't put it there, we put it on a worker. And if we can't put it there, we put it on the server.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah, we don't want to do too much work.
Yeah, we're trying to delegate it to the client.
We're working really hard to not work hard.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. All right. Any other words of wisdoms?
Eat fruits.
Eat fruit. Vlad, what's your tip of the week?
Coffee helps.
No. Stay uncaffeinated.
What's that you have on the table there in front of you?
Do we have some kind of mute button for his mic?
Yeah, there is
Don't
one
do
here.
drugs.
Yeah.
But it's easier to edit it out in post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep this.
All right, Limblom.
Parting advice.
Yeah. Partying advice.
Yeah, parting advice. No, I mean, it's take care of yourself, because when you're injured, it's not fun.
Don't come to work injured. Take care of yourself, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, very profound words of wisdom there from everybody. We need to work on the outros, but yeah, let's wrap up this and see you in a week or two.
Play the applause.
I got
I don't know which button that
electrocuted.
is.
I got this static thing. I got loaded, and then I touched my lip against the microphone, and I got a jolt.
Okay, so now you're even more injured.
Yeah.
Bye bye.